Welcome to the Monthly Movie Dispatch, the movie review show from friends you can trust. Every week, we broadcast a review of a new film, talk about some film news, and recommend what to watch. I've been talking, critiquing, and gushing about films since high school, and we aim to bring you honest conversation on relevant cinema. I am going to be your host this week, Brandon Bulby, and I have here with me my brother, Shaun Bulby.
Hey,
Hey, how's it going?
pretty good.
So, on this week's episode, we will be reviewing the new film, Nightmare Alley. This is Guillermo del Toro's new movie.
Somewhat
And,
new. It's been out
somewhat,
for
yeah.
almost a month now.
We're a bit late, but
to,
there's just been so much to
Yeah.
watch and to review. But we're catching up, and it's definitely going to slide into indie movie season for maybe the next handful of episodes after this, because there's so much to watch before the Oscars and before everyone starts making our own top 10 lists of the year. So, Guillermo del Toro, it's a name I think a lot of people know at this point.
household name.
Household
Would
name.
you call it a household name?
I feel like he's become a household name. His discography isn't too long. He has kind of very contained specific filmography, contained specific filmography, and he doesn't make too many movies. But he's been on a good streak recently. Obviously, he had The Shape of Water Oscar winner finally, which was the last movie that came out. So Nightmare Alley is kind of his follow-up to his big Oscar finally breakout.
Yeah.
Most people know him from, I think, his foreign film winner Pan's Labyrinth back in 2006, which is kind of his his breakouts into the indie film scene and to getting his name really well known in that.
At least in the,
but also
in
probably
the
his most
States.
acclaimed film as well.
Yeah.
I want to know what does Guillermo del Toro as a director mean to you? Why would you be excited to see Nightmare Alley?
Well,
What do you look
I
forward
mean, I think he's pretty well known at this point for having a very unique visual style that is kind of synonymous with I don't know, kind of a horror.
A little darker.
Yeah,
themes,
definitely
film
darker.
noir-y,
I'm trying to
lighting.
think kind of a gothic type of style.
Yes.
And
For some reason, I get steampunky vibes often, even though it's not necessarily. Maybe it's just always in the 30s or 20s and kind of thing. But
yeah, definitely. I think one movie that is maybe a little overlooked by him, but I think in a lot of ways really hones in on where he comes from. I think where his style kind of comes from is Crimson Peak, which is I don't know if you saw that one in 2015.
Yep.
But that gothic romance style, I think when I think of him, that's kind of what I think about.
Very novelistic,
Yeah.
I guess. Early century novels, or
Yeah.
even early film, a lot of acting
Monster
and cinematography and
movies
lighting
and
coming
that
from
kind of
that kind of those decades of film in the 30s and 40s.
Yeah, but at the same time, he's I don't know, maybe it's even half and half, where he has some big budget action kind of blockbustery movies. His first big movie was Blade 2, then he did Hellboy, then he did Pan's Labyrinth, and then he did Hellboy 2 and Pacific Rim.
Yeah, Pan's Labyrinth is kind of smashed between these handful of blockbusters that he did in his early career.
Definitely. And
I
even
think
before then, he had some smaller movies, Devil's Backbone and Mimic, which I have not seen either of those. But those are more horror-y.
Yeah, and people still talk about Devil's Backbone for sure. I think since Hellboy 2, he's been on a really interesting role of doing whatever the hell he wants kind of money or kind of influence in the film scene. He writes or contributes writing into all his films, and they're all unique IPs. They're all uniquely him, and regardless of what he's doing, it's always his vision.
Yeah.
So I don't think he has any misses, but some hit harder than others. But whatever it is, it's gonna just be interesting to see what he does next.
Yep. Totally agree.
Yeah, that's why I think I'm a fan, and I will continue to see his movies. And Nightmare Alley is just exactly what I'd expect from Guillermo del Toro at this rate.
Definitely.
So let's jump into it. So we're going to be reviewing Nightmare Alley, Guillermo del Toro's film. Let's read a quick synopsis. An ambitious carny with the talent of manipulating people, with a few well-chosen words hooks up with a female psychiatrist who is even more dangerous than he is. Little spoiler there. But this is a film adaptation. I don't know if that many people realize that, but it's from a 1946 novel and then a 1947 follow-up film, which was actually very well acclaimed back then. I was looking up some reviews for it. People really revere the original Nightmare Alley. And it's on the Criterion Collection.
Yeah, I just made my Criterion list, and that was one of my options. I'd never heard of the movie, and yeah, it'd be interesting to see and compare.
You saw this in theaters a few weeks ago, but I'll let you start. What are your just initial thoughts on Nightmare Alley?
Yeah, I mean, this is fits perfectly in the Guillermo del Toro canon. It's kind of right up his alley, pun intended or not intended, if you, as you like.
Yes.
But yeah, it really does fit in right with his style. That kind of gothic. There's some romance. There's some dark elements. There's maybe some. There's not really any monsters, but it's almost like.
There could be a monster at any point with the carniness.
Yeah.
The carny scenes of it.
With the geek, and you don't really know what's going on with that. It's also a bit of a mystery, almost, it feels like. Even though it's not a mystery, the way he kind of reveals the story and the plot almost feels like a mystery, as this character is slowly going down this path of and entering this carnival lifestyle and learning things, and it's almost
That's
like
interesting you say that, because at some points I was asking myself, like, the plot in itself is a mystery, because I was not sure where it was going for a good chunk of this film.
Yeah, definitely.
But we'll talk more about that.
And yeah, and it's almost more the characters themselves are revealing information as if it was a mystery. Yeah, I think the characters and the acting is incredibly strong in this movie.
I did not mention the cast for some reason in my introduction. Let's just talk through it.
Wondering about that.
So we got Bradley Cooper, we got Cate Blanchett, Toni Collette, and William Dafoe, just to name a few. Rooney Mara was cool to see in another movie. I feel like it's been a little bit. Richard Jenkins, pretty prolific, and so on, and other faces I recognize throughout the even like more supporting.
I mean, you have to stop naming names at some point. So, but you could keep going.
It's cool that Guillermo del Toro has like gotten kind of his crew like that follow him through these movies, and just like other like big directors and like Quentin Tarantino or others that have like casts that follow him that just love him so much they'll do whatever movie with him next. Guillermo del Toro is kind of like assembling that, and you're seeing like familiar faces through his
definitely. And I think he has the acclaim where he can kind of work with anyone he wants now. I think most people would consider themselves lucky to work on a Guillermo movie.
He's probably a great guy just to work with and be around.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of wanted to mention that I've seen a few interviews of him where he takes the camera through his house, like, I don't know, I guess kind of a Cribs style thing. And his house is so crazy. And it's like just full of horror monsters and creepy gothic things. And
really?
Yeah, you watch those interviews and he's just like so fun to listen to, and to just kind of listen to him talking about film and film history, and he's so knowledgeable, and just a kind of a delightful person overall. So I imagine that I don't know, actors might think the same. But I
could give my like quick thoughts before we go into spoilers, but like I liked the movie. I think this is like a, I don't know, maybe a simpler film for him, coming out of Shape of Water, a more
Mm-hmm.
straightforward movie. I think it's pretty easy to kind of know where this is going. For I don't know, it's a familiar story wrapped up in Guillermo del Toro's like interesting style, visuals, lighting, practical sets. You like he doesn't spare much expense when you're actually getting into the huge carnivals and a lot of huge indoor and outdoor simultaneous shots where you can
Mm-hmm.
tell it's they just did everything very practically. Uh, the cast is fun to watch them like in this 1940s setting where they're also acting like they're in a like 1940s film noir film with
Mm-hmm.
that kind of like familiar like cadence in their dialogue
Yeah.
and style. Uh, so yeah, overall, I think I enjoyed the movie. I think it's maybe kind of as far as Guillermo del Toro goes, it maybe is just more average for me. It's not a Pan's Labyrinth or Shape of Water, but maybe it's just more similar to how I felt leaving Crimson Peak,
Mm-hmm.
which is it was good, but like not a mind blowing Guillermo del Toro film.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of it is wrapped up in its weird pace, which this is a very long movie for not so much to be revealed,
Mm-hmm.
and a big part of that is its over hour long introduction
Mm-hmm.
before it cuts to what the actual movie becomes, and that's like shocking how long
Mm-hmm.
that character intro between him and Rooney Mara is.
Yeah.
And I didn't hate any of it, but I'm just like I don't know how much of it was needed once we find out where the film actually goes.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a
Like or how.
huge cast that are just the carnies.
Mm-hmm.
That in the, I guess, I don't want to get too much into spoilers, but in the second half of the movie, they're basically non-existent
Yeah,
anymore.
like how much did Tony Collette really like need to be here or
I
affect the
mean,
movie, and how much time was spent with her?
yeah,
Like you could have gotten around a lot of that with not making it an hour long and having it been like a tighter 30-minute Carney intro of him meeting Rooney Mara,
hmm Although I will
and just
say,
pace the movie
I
better.
do think like probably the more interesting part of the movie is that carnival, that
Agreed.
atmosphere, which is maybe
Agreed.
a little unfortunate and maybe a little bit is why um, the movie kind of falls maybe a little short at the end. Although I really did quite like the movie all the way through. I think
No, I
it
and I think
it
that's interesting that you say that like the first hour is maybe the more interesting hour because
mhm.
it's like stuff you kind of haven't seen before, and he's doing it in like a fun, stylized way. But once you find out what the next hour and a half is,
Mhm.
it like makes it weirder that you spend so much time, and even I
Mhm.
guess the better part of the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of like mixed feelings about that.
Yeah, I mean, and thinking back on it, I really did not dislike anything, and it wasn't even that I was in the latter half of the movie. I was like, oh man, I was really wish we'd go back to. I was just kind of along for the ride throughout the movie, and it really kept me entertained. Like all those scenes between Bradley Cooper and Kate Blanchett were incredible, and all the scenes
Kate
with
Blanchett is just like sucking it up or like playing the
yeah,
camera
just
so hard in her
yeah,
scenes.
she's
It's pretty
like
fun.
chewing scenery is what
Yeah.
they say.
She's just like
Yeah,
living in this film
yeah,
noir
she's
harder than
just
any other actor here.
loving being
Yeah.
being in that
She's
character, and
the
she's just
like
eating it up. Yeah, for
brightest
sure.
red lipstick
Uh-huh.
ever, and like every like
Just
word she says
the
is just like
piercing eyes, and yeah,
mhm.
she's fantastic, and you know Bradley Cooper kind of deals it right back to her.
Yeah.
And yeah, Richard Jenkins as well. Towards the end, I all that stuff was super intense. I really enjoyed it. I loved a lot of kind of the ideas that the movie was playing with in the latter half of the movie, with his ability to kind of do that, the kind of magic act. What do they call it? The mist? No.
The mind reading.
Yeah,
There's a
kind of.
word for it though.
Yeah. Anyways, where you, yeah, kind of that style of magic trick, which really involves kind of looking at people and just dissecting people visually and making assumptions about people and kind of picking up on little hints and then going down that road and taking them with you where they think that you're just kind of arriving at these things. So like, and then him doing that and comparing that to what Cate Blanchett is doing as a psychiatrist, and that kind of rivalry almost that they have because of that, I thought was really clever and fun and interesting. But yeah, the movie, I think as a whole is very strong. The climax of the film doesn't quite hit, but the ending of the film, I think, is great. If that makes sense.
I actually have something to say in there too. And I'm curious why you said that, because we might agree. But I think we've given our initial thoughts. Let's go into spoilers and start just digging into individual scenes and what we thought and what individual scenes were good and bad and all that stuff. So spoilers from here on out.
Spoilers.
Let's go on.
Spoilers.
So what do you mean by what part of the climax?
So the climax, I would say, is pretty clearly the build up to that con. The con, him trying to trick the guy into thinking that he is summoning his dead wife, and that's kind of the climax. That's the most intense. The whole movie is almost building towards that moment. Yeah. It fails, and then it all we're in spoilers. Hopefully, it fails. It all falls apart, and they go on the run. And that was the climax. But the ending is when he kind of comes full circle back to the circus, and
which is something like I feel like I see a lot. Like that ending, as much is a great way to end movies, but I like. As it was happening, you're like seeing There Will Be Blood, or like The Aviator, like Madman kind of looks in the mirror and comes full circle on his journey, his fall from grace kind of thing. And it was the GIMP or the geek reference was great, like to bring that back. And I knew something had to be there, because I was like, we dropped this guy off at the hospital. Why did we see this geek so many times? And it's because like he becomes one, I guess, and that was a pretty great revelation for the
and like the girl. It was one of those scenes where I knew pretty early on that that's where it was going. Like in that scene, like when he returns to the actually even maybe a little bit before that, when he is like really taking his nosedive and hitting rock bottom, I was like, oh, I wonder if they're gonna. What's that?
When he's drinking and stuff.
When he's drinking, I'm like, I wonder if like he's gonna, the name of the movie is Nightmare Alley, which is where Willem Dafoe says that's where he gets his geeks from. And then but as that scene's happening, I'm like more and more sure that that's where it's going. And I'm just waiting for it.
Okay, you called it very early on.
And I'm just like waiting for it. And I'm like, yes, please give it to me. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And then the way that it builds up that scene to that moment, like I knew it was coming, but I was so happy and it was so satisfying and it worked.
I think I have one job for you.
Yeah.
Just until we get someone that we're actually looking for.
Yeah. He says it's temporary. Something. Yeah.
Yeah, he just says it's only temporary. Yeah. It's really good. It's really good. The climax that doesn't really hit, and I feel like the climax is good enough, but I think there's things that were keeping it from being like actually thrilling. I think the con ends up being like not complex enough at all, and like kind of dumb. Like he's like, I'll make him get on my knees and hit his knees and close his eyes, and then he doesn't, and why would he? And then he walks up to her, why wouldn't he? And she doesn't have her face covered for some reason, and he just sees her, and I'm like, like this is 101 what you should expect to happen.
That went wrong exactly in the way that I thought it was going to go wrong.
And you weren't smart enough to have a way to stop him besides like trying to grab him and keep him from walking up to her. So yeah, it was just like it wasn't that creatively written. We're supposed to have
Yeah.
like I guess kind of a very intelligent con artist not
Uh-huh.
plan out his big
Yeah.
con in any kind of way. He
Yeah.
had absolutely no plan B.
Uh-huh.
Um,
I really thought it
and it
was,
was just like
I don't know. I thought it was gonna be something maybe a little more creative, like the bodyguard guy was gonna sneak around. I don't know. Was gonna find out about it and ruin the whole thing unexpectedly.
yeah, there
You
could have
know.
just been such a bigger twisty way
Yeah.
for that scene to have gone down
Yeah.
than it did. Um,
Uh,
and then
and like
after he sees her, he
even
just kind of like beats him to death. I'm like, even
yeah.
that fight and that like anger could have gone down in a more interesting
Yeah,
way.
probably. I
Uh,
thought
so
like
yeah,
one of the problems also with the scene is that it wasn't satisfying to like get to that point, I guess. Like you didn't get any like because you know the whole movie you've had all these great scenes of him of like these magic tricks and showing how the magic tricks are done and like when Bradley Cooper is taking down Kate Blanchett in his during his live show, and he's like figuring that out. There, it's like you're seeing his con
mhm.
and it's like really intense, and
Yes.
that works really well in that scene. But he didn't bring that to the conclusion.
Yeah, there
It
wasn't
just
any in-depth reading of any situation of the
yeah,
man or the con. It
hmm
just happens like I would do it if I was trying
yeah,
to con this guy,
uh huh,
but in no intelligent way.
yeah,
And when we've seen him be intelligent many times in the
yeah,
past. So
um,
a little unfortunate, and yeah, that kept that scene from being really powerful because I was thinking about just how like kind of a little bit lazy it all
hmm
was while it was happening.
yeah,
But the chase after the the like suicide of the other family was really twisted,
hmm
and like
yeah,
I think
shocking,
that it's shocking. Like that is like super poignant to like
yeah,
what he's doing wrong. Obviously, in the most extreme sense,
hmm
like you don't get more extreme than that of someone's reaction to him conning them,
hmm
um, of them killing like committing suicide so they can be with their dead
yeah, because
son. I
that's
think it
something
was.
that you hear a lot, like in the real world. Like people say they're just helping people. What's wrong with them just helping
Yeah,
people? And you know, I don't know
and
if this is a great example for to you know put onto every situation like that, but you know, it can't.
obviously, yeah, it's the most extreme example,
Uh,
but it was interesting that they showed how like dark and twisted that played out.
hmm
And I don't know, there's like as I liked you said, I liked the first half. The second half was missing things for me. Like I felt like his build up to being this big, massive success of a man before he falls and crumbles was, we cut to him at his most successful point,
hmm
and then we get one messy con and then his failed con, and then it's
hmm
just over.
yeah,
And I guess maybe more of the movie, I wanted to see his like build up before his fall
hmm
to make it as gut wrenching when I do see him fall. Like, because
hmm
I don't necessarily know if I was like that invested in what he became. Um, Maybe you need like a TV series to do that
yeah. I
better,
think
like Breaking Bad. You
maybe the
can't do it in a
problem is
film.
you don't feel super strongly about what he became. Like it's kind of cool, you know, good for him. He became successful. You care more about Rooney Mara than you
Mm-hmm.
do him, and you're like really rooting for Rooney Mara because you don't want her to, you know, be taken advantage
I,
of and all that. But for him, it's like you don't really care too much that he's super successful, and you don't really care too much that he has like kind of a fall. Uh,
yeah, and I
he's
don't
a
I
little
don't
bit
know
of a
why
blank
that is.
canvas.
Like maybe it's because you didn't see him become successful, um,
hmm
but and he just is all of a sudden.
hmm
But yeah, and you mentioned Rooney Mara. I wish she had a little more agency in the second
hmm
half, because some of her
Yeah.
scenes were really great. Like the final scene, when she is in the car and tells him why that act she made that act work of her
Uh
electrocuting
huh.
herself. Like
Yeah.
that was really good, but I feel like she needed more agency rather than just being the person that says no to him like
hmm
7 times and then tries to leave and then
Yeah.
doesn't. Like she also should have had a con going on that was intricate
hmm
or interesting that gave her more of a play in the actual outcome of everything, I
hmm
guess. And that could have made the ending a lot more complicated and
hmm
fun to watch.
Also, I didn't fully understand Kate Blanchett's character and why she did her turn. I don't,
I
you kind of
I
got
don't
that
know.
there was
Like
like that
she was
rivalry
conning
there.
him.
Yeah, but
Like she wanted the money. She got a shit ton. She got all the money from the entire
yeah,
con.
true.
Well, she's
I don't
the,
know.
I guess she's the ultimate villain that outsmarted him.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I just you never really got the sense uh, that she, I guess she seemed very rich, very wealthy. I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
and
I guess because she was introduced late, she was just the villain to
mhm,
me, and that was fine. When
mhm,
Rooney Mara was there from the beginning, and I wanted her to have like an actual
yeah,
powerful moment, or like a bigger play.
hmm,
So I don't. I guess that's me just fine. Why I had a problem with Rooney Mara, not Kate Blanchett,
yeah,
because Kate Blanchett was kind of single note the whole time, and she was just that for the last hour of the film, and
hmm,
I guess because I was okay with that.
yeah.
So what else did you like about the film? What were some of your favorite scenes earlier on?
I really want, I briefly mentioned them, but all the scenes where they are reading people, and there's several times that they do that in the um, at the circus, and then he does it several times when he's super successful. Those scenes were so well put together and so
At the
intense.
circus when he's saving from the cops from shutting everything down,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
um,
Uh, and he explains later exactly what he saw in the man, like
uh-huh,
his like crippled leg because he was wearing like a wooden heel to keep his balance up. He probably had polio, and yeah,
yeah,
it was
yeah.
really cool
It's almost
seeing this like really intelligent man
yeah,
think through all that.
it's almost like a Benedict Cumberbatch as Sherlock Holmes type thing, but he's using it to trick people and to, using his deductive reasoning to take advantage of people and to trick them into putting on a show and giving him money. It was
Yeah.
really fun, kind of twisted, but it was really well done.
And I liked stuff back, yeah, in the first part of the movie too, like him watching one of the first circus acts, that where they're reading the letters,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
they're putting in the fire, and there's the glass window below with the
Hmm.
drunk man. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I thought just like it's really clever, and like seeing how it's actually done, and him like discovering these
Yeah.
tricks of the carny life.
Uh huh.
Like all that was really fascinating and well done.
And
Um,
like even when he's successful, showing how he and Rooney Mara are doing that trick, um, where they have like a whole language that they're speaking to each other, hidden within what they're like the show that they're performing for the audience, like
yeah,
where
once they actually make
you
it.
can basically describe any object in detail through just a short few sentence like little thing.
Phrase
It's
that she was
yeah,
putting
phrase.
together.
Like if I just told you something completely different in that sentence that I
Yeah,
just based on little words that I
yeah,
decided
giving her
to
a few
use.
letters and
Hmm.
words within that phrase.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, it's just cool. I don't know. It's just cool learning about how that's probably often done.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
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 Anything else that stands out to you?
I mean, I loved all. I mentioned the Kate Blanchett and Bradley Cooper relationship and them playing off each other, but I thought like pretty much pick any two characters in the movie and they have a great dynamic. Like Willem Dafoe and Bradley Cooper, uh, Tony Collette and what's his name? Her
And Bradley
husband.
Cooper.
Yeah, and Bradley Cooper, but also her and her husband. Um, oh man, he's good.
Even the
Good in the
husband
role.
and Bradley Cooper, in
Yeah,
the first half. Yeah, God, there's the more we say it, like the first half really is
yeah,
where like a lot of great stuff
hmm,
lies. And I
yeah,
wonder if the film had stuck there
uh
for a
huh,
lot longer, if we would have gotten
yeah,
something even better.
hmm,
Not that what we got wasn't good, but
yeah. Ron
uh,
Perlman was
yeah,
fantastic.
Ron Perlman and our lead, like relying on each other, like him seeing him as a father figure, asking him if he can teach him.
Or that was David Strathairn. Jesus.
I recognize him.
Yeah, he's like Good Night and Good Luck, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The guy from Good Night and Good Luck. Yeah, he's a fantastic actor, but he killed it. Like as an alcoholic, and I loved how you kind of wonder if Willem Dafoe is, keeping him and maybe some other people in the circus drunk. He's selling him alcohol, and you wonder if he's kind of providing that so that they will have to stick around and rely on
That's
him.
interesting. That
I kind of got those vibes.
Total unspoken thing.
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think final thoughts. I think this is a good Guillermo del Toro film with some things that could have made it great that we identified. But overall, I really enjoyed it. It's an hour and a half long, or 2.5 hours long. It could have been a bit shorter if it had wanted just like picked up the pace and made it tighter. But definitely worth the watch, and another good film in his canon.
Totally. I would
Any
probably
final
put
thoughts?
I'd probably put it a little bit above Crimson Peak. But I also want to say that Guillermo del Toro generally struggles in his endings for me. I think most of his better movies, the ending is a bit crazier. Like there's more happening. But I do think like even in his best movies, his endings kind of fall a little flat. Like even
His final moments.
Yeah, his final moments, like Shape of Water and even Pan's Labyrinth, like as brilliant as those movies are, and as like as much as he's doing in those endings, there's something about the way he constructs his movies that I generally have a little bit of a hard time with his endings, and this is just another one of those. So wanted to point that out.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. So next week's episode, we haven't picked one yet, but we're probably going to dive into some smaller films. There is a lot to see in the indie film genre, and maybe we'll even combine a few.
I'm like looking at theaters, and unfortunately there's not a lot that's out right now in theaters.
They've come and gone already, and so we're going to have to
really
see them on streaming.
Even Nightmare Alley. I have to say, like, Nightmare Alley bombed.
Spider-Man just kind of took over the world for this month.
It's really unfortunate, especially after his like big, really successful Shape of Water, Oscar win. This movie cost $60 million and it's made $9 million so far.
That's unfortunate.
It's pretty.
A lot of that's probably the cast too.
I know, once the Oscar nominations come out, movies
for cinematography, set design.
Yeah, this movie's going to be
in here.
It's going to be nominated for like, I don't know, 8 Academy Awards. It's
Okay, that's a big guess.
I mean,
but I could see it. It could, especially if you get those acting noms all over the place.
Yeah, if it gets nominated for like director, picture, cinematography, set design, could even be costume design, and then like it could easily be nominated for all four acting categories. That's easily
and that's
8
half
or 9.
of all it needs.
Not to mention editing and visual effects. I don't know if there's. Trying to think if there's many.
I think you're being a little ambitious, but I could see it getting most. I could see it getting close to 8.
Yeah, I would not be 8. I would not be surprised.
Yeah,
we'll
take that
all
bet.
The technical awards.
Let's touch back on it in 4 weeks from now.
Maybe like I don't know. It wasn't very successful. Maybe there's not enough buzz around it. But that would be the only thing. It's absolutely deserving of 8 minimum Oscars.
Yeah, I'll agree with
not wins, nominations. So, yeah.
Anyways. All right, so we'll pick the next indie film as it comes, and maybe we'll do a few all in one episode for the next few weeks. So we will see you next Tuesday. Thanks for joining, Shaun.
Yeah, good to see you. All right.
Bye.
Bye.